Can anybody hear me?
Yes, sir, Chief. That's you, Chief?
Hey, thank you. No, it's John.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Thanks, sir.
All right.
We will start in 1 minute. I'm just waiting for one more person to log on. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to welcome everyone to our city of Palatka, April 23rd, 2020 commission meeting. We're going to have our invocation at this time by Reverend Ted Stackpole. Pastor Ted, if you would go ahead and lead us in the invocation, and then I will turn to the flag so that we can have our pledge. And I'm going to ask Chief Shaw if you lead us in the pledge.
Absolutely. Lord, we come to you this afternoon, and Lord, our hearts are before you because, God, we are seeking after you. We're depending on you. We're depending on you for wisdom. We're depending on you for courage. We're depending on you for strength and healing. God, we're depending on you for a solution to this virus, God, and a vaccine. God, everything we have, we're depending on you. And I just ask today, God, for collectively, for this commission to be united, to be strengthened today in one mind and one heart, God, as they actively work together for this beloved city of Palatka that we love so much. Lord, we thank you that we can come to you before a meeting like this and call on your name and ask for your help in a time like this. And Lord, we just look to you right now and we say thank you for being with us and your presence being amongst us. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
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 Please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
All right, thank you. Roll call at this time. Commissioner McCaskill. She's present by video or she's muted at this time.
I'm sorry, Mayor, here.
Campbell? Commissioner Campbell?
Present.
Vice Mayor Brown? Vice Mayor Brown.
From the looks of it, she's not on.
She's not on. We will try to see where she is. And Commissioner Borum.
Present.
Commissioner Borum is present. Just 1 second. Ms. Robinson, if you're on, can you check and see if you can get Vice Mayor Brown back on this link? We're going to go ahead and move into public comments at this time. I'm sorry, we've got approval of minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from both April 9th and April 15th?
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Campbell. There's a second by Commissioner McCaskill. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. And as we wait for Vice Mayor Brown to come back on, we're going to open the floor up for public comments. Public comments at this time will be taken via our YouTube live chat feature. And so if there's anyone here for public comments will be limited based upon the questions asked on the chat feature. No action will be taken on any topics of discussion. So if there's anyone here with a public comment at this time, I will wait for about a minute just to see if questions are coming in under public comment. Please include your name with your question. Are there any questions that have come up on the chat?
No, sir.
Seeing no questions on the chat, we're going to close public comment at this time. I'm going to move on to a presentation. I have one intruder in the City Hall at this time. Michael Leonard is going to come up on behalf of the Palatka Daily News and talk about a wonderful program that they have called Positively Putnam. You all should have received an email as it relates to this program. And I'm gonna just flip the screen for us. We're practicing social distance inside of City Hall, and he will come forward and he will provide you with some information. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I do have my mask with me, but the mayor is a good 6 feet away, so I'll sit it here. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you this evening. Wanted to share with you a really good program that the newspaper has developed, and a number of local organizations, businesses, and governmental bodies have joined in with us as partners. It's called Positively Putnam FL. Behind me here are just a couple of posters that we put together on that. We did a reception in early March about this, and a lot of folks came. We had some folks signed up that evening. The city has been following it since that time, and received an inquiry earlier in the week about coming and talking to you tonight. You each should have received a hard copy of this prospectus on Positively Putnam FL. And then today, I emailed out to each of your email addresses just a one-page sort of crib sheet that is a synopsis of the program. Basically, what Positively Putnam FL is a 12-month program running from April right now of 20 through March 2021. And we are going to be calling attention to all the great positive things that are going on in Putnam County and Palatka, bringing those to light through the newspaper, through our print, digital, and social media products. We're doing some great projects every single month through the year as well. Through this month, we are taking a portion of the partner share that is contributed each month to provide meals for first responders and healthcare workers, and also make donations to soup kitchens and places like Palatka Christian Service Center and South Putnam Christian Services that provide meal for foodstuffs for the hungry. There are 12 partners to date. The city of Palatka would be another partner there. And those that are already in the program are Beck Automotive Group, Putnam County School District, Putnam County Government, St. John's River State College, Georgia Pacific, Seminole Electric, Bates Hewitt Floyd, Bates Coldwell Banker, Douglas Law, Riverside Wealth Advisors, St. John's Asset Management, and Southern Air. So 12 in total at present. The city of Palatka, we think, would be a terrific partner for this program. It's going to call attention to all the good things that are happening. So often we tend to, in our community, call attention only to and say bad things about our town, when there's so many good things to call attention to and to promote. So it's a 12-month program called Positively Putnam FL. There is an investment. The investment is $750 per month. Of that, $250 goes straight to the kitty to pay for projects. The Palatka Daily News is also a partner, so we're putting that money into the pot every month as well. $500 goes for marketing of the city and for these institutions. You get a free color quarter-page ad every single month. You get a full-page ad once over the program to talk about why you're here. Every single day, there is an ad that's almost a quarter-page size with a person from our county, the city of Palatka, Crescent City, everywhere else, saying what I love about Putnam. And so there's their picture, there's a narrative of what they have to say, and then every single partner's logo is a part of that ad. So the city of Palatka's logo, its brand, its positive message is before the community every single day that there's a copy of the paper print. Would be happy to respond to any sort of questions if the mayor can relay them or if I can hear them.
Are there any questions from the commission? Any questions from the commission? I can't.
No.
Two other things I would tell you, if I may. We are having T-shirts printed with a Positively Putnam logo on the back. The logos of the city and all the other partners will be below that. These will be available at cost for the partners. So the city would be able to buy these at cost. It's gonna be $10. These are gonna be produced inside the city of Palatka. We're also doing decals for Positively Putnam that we're producing and distributing widely throughout the county. And there will be a contest where we spot decals on cars, and those people we find get prizes. So it's a full integrated 12-month program that is outlined in this brochure that you received. So I'm happy to respond to questions now, or of course you know how to reach me by email and so forth. So again, thank you. We hope that the city will be a part of this. We think if anybody's a natural fit for Positively Putnam, it would be the city of Palatka. Thank you.
And thank you again.
Mayor, if I may, I think it's an awesome idea, and I think it aligns with some good publicity that we would like to have for the city, and just taking into consideration some of the others that are involved in it. And I know oftentimes we try to mirror a few of the things that the county is doing. So I think this would be one thing that we should definitely hop on, because we all want to promote Palatka in a positive manner.
Okay, Commissioner Campbell, any other comments? Seeing none, we thank you again. And so I can't see, just a second. And I guess I'm trying to see if there's any interest on behalf of the commissioners to move forward with the Positively Putnam program. We've allocated funding for marketing throughout, and I'm just trying to get some input as to whether it's the commission's pleasure to move forward with this program. Commissioner Borum, can you hear me?
How much are we allocating?
I think the program that he's asking for is $750 per month for a 12-month period.
Right.
Comes out to $9,000 total for the Positively Putnam program for a 12-month period. And so,
Mr. Mayor, if I may, it's Logan. That $9,000 is going to be split between 2 fiscal years because of the way that it runs from April to April. And so you're going to be looking at about $4,500 this fiscal year and $4,500 next fiscal year. And like you said, we do have some available budget that I can reallocate from existing community aid and assistant discretionary funding lines. However, there will be no more monies in those lines after I reallocate those dollars. So we just have to be aware of that.
well, we need to reallocate. Didn't we have some additional funds that were set aside strictly for marketing?
Those funds have already been reallocated.
They've been reallocated.
Yes, sir.
So we just need some
Mayor,
direction.
just a point of technicality, if you are going to consider a motion to move forward with that, I'd ask that you go ahead and declare it an emergency item since it's not on the agenda.
No, I'm just trying to get direction from the commission so that we can bring it back for the next scheduled meeting and give an indication to not polling, but just do we want direction as to whether we need to put this on the next scheduled meeting so that we can get back with the newspaper.
Understood.
So we'll put it on the next scheduled meeting and let the commission decide on it, and go from there. I think it's a good program. I think one of the things that we've consistently talked about is having the Palatka Daily News be the steward of positive information throughout the community. I think Mr. Leonard has gone out and shown us through his participation with weekly articles that push forward and editorials that constantly promote downtown Palatka, as well as promoting the city of Palatka as a whole. And it puts us in a position where I think, as you know, as the seat of this community, we need to come in and definitely be a part of moving this community forward by presenting positive information and also highlighting some of the great citizens that we have, as well as some of the great opportunities that exist within the community. And so unless there's an objection from the rest of the commission, we'll put it on the agenda for our next meeting for consideration.
I agree.
Okay. All right, thank you again. Moving on to our consent agenda, we have 5 items on our consent agenda. And just for the public's sake, they are printed on the agenda that's before you. At this time, are there any items on the consent agenda that you wish to have removed? You're muted, Commissioner.
I will make the motion that we accept the consent agenda as it is printed if we do not have any items to pull by the other commissioners.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Campbell, a second by Commissioner McCaskill. Is there any further discussion? Seeing questions called, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 3, direction from the City Commission regarding records indexing and filing. And so this is an item that I brought forward for the commission. One of the things that we found in recent days is that there are a lot of items that we have, historical data, things of that nature, that have not been kept in accordance with the Florida statutes, as well as records keeping regulations. And so many of those items would need to be scanned into a system. Many items would need to be stored in conditioned premises so that those records can be retained. There are a lot of items that need to be purged, that can be purged based upon what the laws say. And there are some items that we have to keep in perpetuity. But in any event, we have a lot of original documents that are inside of City Hall. And one of my concerns is that if we continue to have just these items sitting in their original forms inside of City Hall without being stored on the cloud or any other place, we're going to find ourselves in a situation where we're going to lose very pertinent historical data. My suggestion, and we've talked about this, Mr. Holmes and I, we've talked about it as well. And also Mr. Griffith has pitched in some of the places to kind of help out with some of the things that were there. We wanted to get direction from the commission on how to proceed with these items. And we've gone through and looked, but the majority of the resolutions and the public documents are in manila envelopes, for lack of a better term. It's kind of a medieval records keeping system, but we're finding that there needs to be some significant updating to the software and also the equipment that we have in place, as well as the records keeping, in order for us to really make sure that we are in compliance with our statutes where things are. Mr. Holmes, is there anything else that you want to add to that?
Not really. Jonathan Griffith did do a yeoman's job of getting into the records and trying to determine a volume of the records, and also whether or not they were segregated into different categories. and how many years we're looking at and trying to go back to resolutions, contracts, ordinances. And by and large, I think our ultimate conclusion was we can probably, if we have staff, i.e. clerk or assistant clerk, we can probably in-house organize the records. I don't know whether or not we'll need assistance in converting them to electronic format. So we actually, and Jonathan, if there are details as to how far back we need that the records span, you can ask Jonathan. I think that we're talking about a couple of years worth in general. And we may be able to do it with our clerk or a deputy clerk and maybe some intern help. I'm just not certain about the process of converting them to electronic format as of right now, whether we'll need outside help with that.
And we got a lot of data. I think the other part is there's a lot of data that's in the annex building as well, that goes back over a century in some cases. And so we've also contacted Florida League of Cities. The Florida League of Cities has a clerks association that will give recommendations as it relates to records keeping and things of that nature as well. But I think one of the things that's necessary for us to consider is that there may be a future need to put an RFP in place or bring in temporary staffing or whatever is necessary for us to get these things into compliance if our manpower can't do it internally. And so we wanted to make sure that the commission was aware of those deficits that existed as of now so that we can start to work towards putting us in a position where those things are protected. And not only is it in City Hall, but it would be in other areas within the city as a whole. And so we're going to try to get as many estimates as we can, but at the same time, we need some direction from the commission as to how you want to proceed.
You don't have anybody in-house that could do the filing?
It's not about filing, it's about records keeping pertaining to the statutes. Commissioner, is Ms. Vice Mayor Brown up on the screen? Yeah. So
Yeah.
They can't hear you. So her question was, do you have anyone in the house who can do the records keeping? As of right now, some of the basics, but you get to for the side. Put your block down.
Have to mute. Somebody's gonna have to mute their volume.
You can ask a question.
So go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I was gonna say, was there anybody in-house that could get us started?
No.
Okay.
What was that?
Well,
I
I think
didn't hear it. There isn't anyone that's in-house, you said? I don't know
Yes.
if you can hear me.
I'm sorry, Commissioner McCaskill, what's your question?
Just a follow-up to what Vice Mayor Brown asked. You said there's no one in-house that can get us started with this process.
Right now, you don't have a clerk or an assistant clerk. The only people that you have, the filing that's been done right now, it's just been done by staff. But when we start talking about doing the extensive record keeping, there's no one here at this point who's certified or trained in the aspects of continual records keeping and what needs to be in place. There are applications already in place for a replacement clerk. It's my understanding that Mr. Holmes is going to start looking at how to fill those positions as we move forward. But I think overall, we've got to look at having a succinct plan. One of the things that I asked our prior clerk was to provide a 12-month plan as it related to getting these documents into compliance. And we didn't get that. And so one of the things that we have to do is to make sure that we are in compliance as it relates to records keeping. There's some very valuable records and logs that go back hundreds of years, as well as the documents that we have in place now, and making sure that we're in the 20th century when it comes down to data collection.
Mayor Hill, Mr. Larry Beaton stated, he said, I believe that there will be an interest by the Putnam County Historical Society and the Putnam County Library System in assisting the city in digitizing the historical records.
Okay. So we definitely appreciate that. We can look into it. And also we'll come back with a report from the clerks association as to how to move forward. But I wanted to make sure that you guys were apprised of this information so that we could all be on the same page. There's nothing forward. What I'll do with the permission of the commission is we'll get with Mr. Beaton, let them look at the information and maybe give us an idea as to what they can do as it relates to the historical documents that are mostly inside of our secure areas. And so we'll look at that, and then we'll come back with a plan for that, and also a plan for digitizing as many of the other documents as we can with a scope and a time period to get those things in place, as well as the ADA compliance piece, which right now has our webpage limited with the data that's provided. And so we will try to give you some costs on that in the coming weeks. So we will move on to item number 4, appointment of city manager, consideration of Don Holmes as city manager. Who wants to present this item?
That'll be Commissioner Borum here.
Sir.
All right, we just a little bit about Don. Don Holmes was recently awarded the AV preeminent ratings. The ratings are based on confidential evaluations submitted by lawyers and judges throughout Florida. AV preeminent is a significant rating accomplishment, testament to the fact that a lawyer's peers rank him or her at the highest level of professional excellence. And I understand that he has received this rating for more than 20 years consecutively. Highest possible rating in both legal ability and ethical standards, reflecting the confidential opinions of members of the bar and judiciary. I also understand that Don Holmes previously served as an interim city manager with the city of Palatka prior to his current acceptance of this role. I would like to commend Don for stepping in and stepping up to take the helm with the respect to helping the city move forward. Don placed his law practice on hold while accepting the interim city manager assignment. On the night of Don's acceptance, he proactively reached out to all the department heads to address their needs, as well as provide next steps for business continuity. I greatly appreciate all the things he has done for our great city. Don has practiced law for more than 40 years in Palatka, where he lived, work, and play. Don is totally invested in his family, his law practice, and the community as a whole. And we recently thank him, we certainly thank him for his contribution to our city. Don has also applied for the city manager role, and he narrowly missed it a while back before we selected another candidate, but he humbly accepted his role and continued to serve the city. And that brings me to the decision to making the motion to have Don Holmes as our permanent city manager. Don was a diamond in the rough, and I think, and that's my motion to move Don Holmes as the permanent city manager.
Second.
So motion on the floor by Commissioner Borum. There's a second by Commissioner McCaskill. Well, now I've got one speaker card as it relates to this item. Some kind of way Ms. Kitchen snuck in the city hall. And so we're gonna go ahead and let her stand about 6 feet away from that microphone there. Just stand right there and just read your statement. Yeah, just come right here and read your statement. Yeah, you get right there. And so Chief Shaw, make sure that we keep security on the door. Go ahead.
Well, you invited me in when you said I could reserve a spot last week.
Senior citizens, go ahead.
Allegra Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida, 32177. Don Holmes could be practicing law anywhere in the country, but not only did he open his practice in Palatka, he chose to stay here. Unlike others who come to Palatka say they love it and treat us badly, Don Holmes has a real heart for not only the city, but for its citizens. He has shown that by raising his family here, working here, and being in various levels of public service for over 40 years, including the district attorney's office, as board attorney for several county and city boards, as well as city attorney for Palatka and Interlochen. In his private practice and community service, Don has many contacts in the business, civic, and political world, not only in Palatka and Putnam County, but all over the state. That alone could be a valuable asset for Palatka as you, the commission, works to move Palatka forward. Don is the right person, and this is the right time for him to be Palatka city manager. He has the knowledge, experience, and capability to steer the city of Palatka through these dark and troubled times, bring us stability, and guide us safely through into the sunlight of a new day. Don is experienced in all parts of the inner workings of Palatka. As city attorney, he has been involved in all aspects of the running of the city, from serving previously as interim city manager to working with the fire and police departments through pension union and insurance negotiations, working with CRA grants, overseeing the various contracts the city has had with contractors, developers, etc., as well as having a good working knowledge of the city budget. I'm asking you to please vote tonight for Don Holmes as your permanent city manager with no term limits. Thank you.
You've now heard Don Holmes' eulogy. So it's always scary when a lawyer starts to get a whole bunch of nice comments. So at this time, we've heard our public comment. And you've also, now we will ask, is there any public comment? Are there any additional public comment, in all fairness, from the audience on YouTube Live by way of the chat? I'll give it a couple seconds.
All that's up remarks were excellent.
So, great eulogy. Mr. Holmes, we're going to send flowers to your office tomorrow. So, if you're the home director's laughing on the side, just so that you guys know. Now, are there any comments from the commission as it relates to the motion?
I'm in support of that motion. I think we are taking, at this time, the correct steps in order to try to bring some stability to our city. So I wholeheartedly, at this time, support the recommendation of Commissioner Borm and the second by Commissioner McCaskill. So I think Attorney Holmes has proven himself over and over again. And at this time, again, I want to openly say that I fully support him coming into that position in hopes of continuing to carry us in the direction that we want this city to go. So that's my comment for right now.
Okay, so I've got a couple questions and before Vice Mayor calls question. And it's a couple of things that have been discussed. Some of the questions the immediate question that I have is if when we appoint Mr. Holmes as our city manager, it creates an immediate need for us to appoint a city attorney. And I have a recommendation as it relates to that I'll bring forth. But the other part is we want to make sure that if we're appointing Mr. Holmes as our city manager, there has to be a contract put into place. There has to be negotiations of that contract so that the terms and conditions will be in place, which provides an additional need to have a city attorney involved in that process as well. I can work in concert with the city attorney, being the only commissioner who has some legal background as it relates overall, if that's the voice that needs to be heard from the commission to bring it forward, bring the contract forward to us so that the terms will be something that can be discussed by the commission as a whole before accepted. But the other piece is understanding, Mr. Holmes and I have talked about this as it came up on the agenda about the fact of that he would be considered a full-time employee, truly a full-time employee, and he would be unable to practice law in the same manner that he practices now. Mr. Holmes, for the record, understanding that if the commission is so inclined to make you the city manager, you understand that at that point, you wouldn't be able to make any appearances as it relates to court at that time. And that in essence, your practice would either close or you'd have to take a counsel role with your firm and make a full commitment to be involved in the day-to-day operations of the city of Palatka?
I consulted the Florida Bar, which, as you know, is a requirement for all of us when we, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My screen was indicating that I may still be muted, but I consulted the Florida Bar. As you can probably imagine, having practiced law, after I left the state attorney's office, I've practiced law now in Putnam County for about 38 years, 44 years in total. 37 years, I guess, after I left the state attorney's office. And my name's been on the door in Palatka for that time.
I feel young now.
You can probably imagine that, I've got some emotion about having my name not on a door in Palatka with the name lawyer after it. I've consulted the bar. They indicated that my name, the name of my firm, Holmes & Young, could remain the same as long as I was of counsel to the firm, even though I did not represent anyone in a court case or anything of that nature. But I would have to be able to say that I would consult with my own firm, nobody else. And there's no minimum time. I mean, it could be an hour a month, it doesn't matter. But I'd have to be able to say that I at least consulted with my firm. And of course, it would have to be about no matter that concerned the city of Palatka. And if I did that, I could be of counsel to that firm. And that is what I would request. Certainly, I would not go to court. I would not actively practice. But as hopefully you can understand, I'm pretty proud of the name I've built here as an attorney. And I'd hate to have to take my name off the door and not have it anywhere out there on the door in the city of Palatka in front of a law firm.
Okay. And then the other thing is, you heard my comments as it related to appointment of a city attorney. Do you agree with those comments as well?
Well, absolutely. I think it's important that, but those of you who know me, I know I couldn't advise myself because I seldom argue with myself. So I believe it would be important that you have an independent attorney, a city attorney who could advise you and me. I won't stop thinking like an attorney, and so I, hopefully that'll be an asset as we go forward. I can also bring a second point of view to the attorney that represents the city. But yes, I agree. There needs to be a separate attorney, a different attorney other than myself.
And so, I guess the last thing is, Mr. Holmes, you've represented probably every governmental entity, or at least in some capacity, maybe with the exception of the city of Crescent City, and that's maybe before my time, but you represented many entities within this community. Do you believe there will be any inevitable conflicts as it relates to prior representation or anything to that matter?
I think it'd be just the opposite. I hope that I've built a rapport. People haven't always agreed with me, but I hope that I've engendered respect for my positions and my points of view. And I would hope that the rapport I've established, and I believe it or not, after the paper came out, I had different individuals from different city governments or governmental entities in the area reach out to me and express their willingness to cooperate should I get the job. So I think it actually would turn into an asset, not a disadvantage.
Okay. And so I guess the last thing is I've talked to you a little bit about Valeria Thomas, who's a new Putnam County resident here, who's also prior general counsel for the Miami-Dade Corrections, and also a prior attorney and specialist as well for the Miami-Dade Housing Authority, who's indicated a willingness to serve in an interim capacity. She's recently retired in an interim capacity as a city attorney for the purposes of allowing us to be able to do a diligent search for an attorney to replace you full time. And so you've kind of got the information as it relates to her. You have any angst or any anxiety as it relates to that?
None whatsoever.
In lieu of the information that I have before me, I concur with what's in place. Vice Mayor, do you have a motion? I'm sorry, you call the question?
Yes.
Questions called by.
Without any further discussion from the commission, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. And so, Mr. Holmes, glad to not have you as a competitor anymore. So again, I guess the last part of it is this, Mr. Holmes, there also needs to be, so that there's some consciousness of what takes place from the council. Anytime that an attorney removes himself from a firm or sells it or even takes an of-counsel role, there's a certain level of communication and closing that has to be done as it relates to cases that are currently on the books. And so my question to you is, how much time do you anticipate needing, or do you need to go back and look at your stuff to see where you are as it relates to how much time you need in order to resolve pressing matters that you have before you with your firm? And you don't have to answer that now. You can just give us kind of a briefing on that, I guess, as we move by way of memo or something that gets us there if you need to.
Thank you.
But I think that creating that timeline is going to be critical for us to move forward as we begin the contracting process. And so my other question for the commission, that motion passed, is how do you want to move forward as it relates to the negotiations? HR will be involved in those negotiations. Do you want anyone else involved in negotiations as it relates to the city manager? Or do you want the Higginbotham group to work towards that? If she's on the phone at this time, do we have Ms. Higginbotham available? I see her here. Ms. Higginbotham?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I am on the line.
And so you've heard the motion from the commission as it relates to bringing Mr. Holmes on board. I know that we were still in a contract with you. Would that contract allow for you to be able to participate in the contract negotiations with Mr. Holmes?
I will do whatever you and the commission wishes. If that is your desire, then I will be happy to do that for you.
Okay. And any questions from the commission as it relates to Ms. Higginbotham?
Mr. Mayor, this is Commissioner McCaskill. I just wanted to know, I know that we have them for 18 months. The services, are the services included? Does this include part of the services that we already have them under contract for?
It's better served by Ms. Higginbotham.
Since I was in on the negotiations for your last city manager, I will make myself available to make the negotiations on this one as well.
We appreciate that. And I think Ms. Higginbotham goes over and beyond the call of duty. I think she has a special place in her heart for Palatka, and we really appreciate the professionalism as well as the amount of detail that you provide in the services that you have given the city as a whole. And so we definitely want to thank you for all that you've done thus far.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any comments from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make sure that we take in consideration, I know previously we've brought to the table those that serves in the capacity of city manager are required to, for lack of a better word, stay within the city. I know that he's been established in Putnam County for quite some time now. So I would remove that because he does have a business, or he will be of counsel for a business that is centrally located. And he has been very responsive in times past when needed. So I don't think that, I don't want to have him uproot completely to try to find a place in the city of Palatka when he's already been established here for quite some time. Also, I want to make sure that in the negotiations, we take in consideration the evaluation component of things. I know that's something that we as a commission have failed previously, and I want to make sure that before we make any kind of motion moving forward, that we have a evaluation that's properly set in place so that we give Attorney Holmes the opportunity to address all concerns that may have come from the commission.
Mayor, I have a comment when you get a second.
Go ahead.
Just speaking back on the comment about the city manager having to reside in Palatka. Now that was a preference, but I think we changed it in our last search with Ms. Higginbotham, that they can reside within Putnam County. That's what we had in our last search, if my memory serves me correctly.
That's fine. I just want to make sure that that is at
You can.
conversation.
Remember that, cause my thing was, I wanted to make sure it's paying the little city taxes along with me, so it hurts a little bit when we have to do it. So if you wanna donate a little bit city taxes, we all right.
I agree totally, but that's what we had in our last one. I certainly appreciate it, but I agree with that as well.
Madam Vice Mayor, you should be happy to know that I, along with another, own the building that I've practiced in since 1992. And a year ago, we bought the building at 300 Reed Street, which is where the Cricket Wireless store is located, that entire building. I pay plenty of taxes in the city of Palatka. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, I guess we can let you slide with that since you taxpaying. But I don't remember saying that they couldn't live in the city. As long as he has, as long as there is that responsibility, that I just wanted to, I think that the person that sits at the helm sometimes has to know how everybody else feels. And he has been a taxpaying citizen for a number of years. And he lives here. He won't have to get to learn everybody. We won't have to pay him to move. And I think there may be some good things to that too.
I just think you give him 6 months to move and he should be all right.
We have to live in the city for one thing. All of us that are elected have to live in the city limits.
So, and I think for Mr. Shanahan, there was actually some leeway given for him to move within a certain proximity of the city limits and to make best efforts to find housing within the city limits during the last contract, because there was a deficit of housing at that point at a certain level. And so that was one of the things that was there, just for the record. And so we can move forward as it relates to the negotiations, and Mr. Holm will give us a timeline as it relates to resolution of existing cases on his docket, and when he will transition from interim into full-time manager. And so, Mr. Holmes, congratulations.
I got one other
This is
question.
probably the shortest search we've had. Vice Mayor, what's your question?
I know he has big salary being an attorney.
We can't afford him.
I was gonna say, can we afford him, and is there something that's gonna go between the negotiators and us?
I think,
letting us, the commission, know what's going on?
well, I think as the person who's negotiated the last few contracts, he has a better idea than anybody what the city's willing to pay for a city manager. And I think more than anything, that's where we are. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to work within the ranges that have been put in place before to make those things happen. He knows by no stretch of the imagination, are we going to be able to pay him what he makes as legal counsel? Anytime you work for government, it's a pay cut, and we just work it because we love it. So that's where we are. But
I wanted to tell him, that's the question I ask anytime they ask about buying anything or hiring anybody. I look at Logan or whoever's sitting there at Trinity and say, can we afford it? And that's what we need to know.
the question is, she said, anytime we think about buying anything or hiring anybody, she asked finance, can we afford it? And so her question to you is, are you comfortable with the salary ranges that are in place for a city manager, or the history of the salary range?
Yes, I am. I contemplated that before this meeting. Yes.
Okay. And so is there any other comments from the commission? You got any comments, Mr. Holmes?
I do want to thank you for the trust that you're putting in me. And I feel like we can accomplish great things together. I believe that the staff, you have a solid staff in place. And I think that that we can start moving forward with some stability, and I'm just looking forward to the future.
Okay, any comments from the commission?
I think I made all of mine when I kind of, had it on the agenda and made my statements. But again, I want to welcome Don and thank him for taking that responsibility, and looking forward to working with you in this capacity. And again, I got full trust in you and full confidence. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you. I intend to earn that trust and confidence every day.
Mr. Holmes, this is Commissioner McCaskill. I too want to thank you for stepping up to the plate and taking on this role. I have full confidence that you will serve the city well. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I want to say that I want us to remember we're better together. And Don knows I say that, and I'm passing it along double for you, because everything we work and do together, you get hands out to do good. And I think if we all hang in and work together as a team, we will have a commission that we want to have in the town that we like for it to be.
All right.
I'd like to say just prior to, again, congratulations. I'm looking forward to moving the city forward with stability. I'm looking for a camaraderie to be built amongst everyone that represents and serves in the capacity, from the elected officials to our department heads to our employees. So I'm looking for that camaraderie, and I'm looking for getting together to finally work on that strategic plan that we need so desperately for our city. And I hope that's one of the first things that you kind of tackle, is that strategic plan once we get past this whole pandemic thing.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that.
Whenever that may be. And so again, congratulations, Mr. Holmes. We're going to move forward. You've already hit the ground running. We've probably put out more fires over the course of the last week than in a long time. And so again, I look forward to working with you, and I look forward to continually moving this community forward. We're gonna continually make the gym shine. And so that's where we are. At this time, I'm gonna pass the gavel over to Vice Mayor Brown virtually. She is socially distanced away from me, but I want to make a motion that we give the city manager, the interim and new incoming city manager, the authority to enter into a contract with Ms. Valeria Thomas, former General Counsel for Miami-Dade Corrections and a Putnam County resident, to act as our interim city attorney until such time that we hire a replacement.
I second that.
Are there any further comments at this time? Questions called by Vice Mayor Brown.
Mayor, I do have a question. You said that her name is Valeria Thomas and she is a product of Putnam?
She's not from Putnam originally. She has retired and moved here to the west end of the county. She's active. She's currently the chair of the Women's Democratic Council, but she has come into Putnam County. She's volunteered in several capacities, working with elections as well. But she has actually been very active coming in here in her retired capacity to Putnam County. And she brings a wealth of governmental knowledge. And I think she would be a very good choice for us as an interim city manager, who comes with, I'm sorry, city attorney. My bad, Mr. Holmes. We don't want another interim city manager. So that's I guess we've been talking about city manager so long, it's just stuck on my brain. But I don't want to see another city manager anytime.
The shortest duration city manager.
You are the shortest serving at least in the last 5 years. But we definitely don't want to see another. And so we're praying that the continuity that we want is in place. But I think Ms. Thomas will bring a wealth of knowledge as well from the governmental side, and she will be able to step right in and continue on with the services that Mr. Holmes has provided us during the time in which we're searching for a city attorney.
And thanks, I'm quite sure that you had conversation with her about this, but it would be nice to meet this young lady, this individual.
I'll put you in touch with her.
Thank you, Mayor.
What did you say?
I said I'll put her in touch.
Okay. I just want to see us get started. All this starting and stopping for the city throws us that much farther behind. And we would like to meet folks if we hire them, so we know that they love us and we can love them back. But we do need to get, I'd like to see us find a city clerk, because they're an intricate part of the operations of the city, and the city manager needs her to keep up too. She's kind of next to him in command.
Hey, if I'm not mistaken, Mayor, you did offer to provide legal assistance to Mrs. Thomas. Am I right?
Oh, Mr. Holmes did. Oh, as far as helping her transition.
I thought, yes, I don't know, maybe I was mistaken. I thought maybe that you were willing to offer some of your legal services or
Well, I'm limited for not operating that capacity, but both Mr. Holmes and I, we've always agreed to work diligently with anybody, to work closely with anybody, and making sure there's a smooth transition. And so, we'll bounce ideas off each other from time to time. So we'll continually do that, and we both will commit to making sure that we assist Ms. Thomas in whatever ways we can to make sure that she's provided with the historical data necessary and any additional insights that we have as it relates from a legal standpoint.
So that means I get in my car.
So that tour is going to be scary, but definitely she'll be indoctrinated with that 2-hour tour, but we will definitely make sure we do that, Commissioner.
I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
Have we went through the process of vetting or what have you in terms of when we bring people on? Will she be going through the same process as anybody who will be employed with the city as it relates to the background checks and all that stuff before bringing them in, or how does that work?
You do that with everybody, but I'll take my chance that the Florida Bar does a better job than we'll ever do.
Well, I understand, but I'm just.
Everybody's vetted. We still go through the same background, so everybody to all those controls. But she's a member of the Florida Bar in good standing. She retired from government, and she worked for many years with Dade County Correction. And if you can work for the correction system in Dade County, you can work anywhere.
All right. I mean, just a question. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. So if there are no other questions, Vice Mayor, you have to call it.
All in favor, say aye.
She says all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Opposition?
Sorry, I was on mute. Aye.
One in opposition. Vote passes by a count of 4-1. And so we're moved forward at this time. Mr. Holmes, if you can go ahead and start working on seeing if we can get everything in place for Ms. Thomas and bring it back before the commission. We'll work from there. Next up on our agenda is City Manager and Administrative Reports. Chief Shaw, I see you on the line. Do you have anything for us today?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to give an update on our current positions. We are to hire on the 29th. That's our first officer. We're also looking at oral boards that will be conducted at the end of this month. With that being said, we have one individual that is set to leave. He's already turned in his resignation, and his last day will be the 5th of May. That will leave us at 5 vacancies. Hopefully we are able to fill 3 of those vacancies within the first oral board, or at least be able to address some of those vacancies at that time.
Okay. Do you, I guess with the number of vacancies and turnover that you have, are you looking at the possibility of bringing, of actually providing some grant opportunity so that we get a certain commitment in number of years. We've kind of looked at the studies before, and I know you get a lot of turnover just based on salaries alone, and the opportunities that exist in St. Johns County. And sometimes it's somewhat disheartening in some situations where they come here and get greater training and then they move on to other areas. But what do you see as the biggest impediment for you as it relates to keeping your officers in place? I know, hard question, but is it money more than anything?
It is money. It's a lot of it's money. And you're right, we do a lot of training. We hire a lot of officers, and officers leave for St. John's, St. Augustine Beach, and Clay County for higher paying salaries and less work. I am looking at a couple things that I will be talking to Ms. Becker about in reference to maybe being able to possibly do things within our current budget to address certain issues. I know that these are trying times that we can't necessarily accomplish everything at once, but being able to establish a plan moving forward to where within the near future, we will be able to at least look at doing something to be able to retain some of the officers. But it's going to take quite a bit at looking at what we have before us. The bonus program you mentioned earlier is one of the things that we had in place for as far as recruitment. And that's one thing I would like to at least bring back to in some form or fashion. Also, the contract, 2 years. We currently have the 2-year contract in place now, which was actually with the assistance of Mr. Holmes was established. I'd like to be able to look at that to see not only how much weight we have with it, but how we can move it forward, maybe even to stretch it out a little bit. I've been looking at a number of different things. When appointed chief, I was requested to recruit locally. I've recruited locally for the last 4 years, and I can tell you approximately about 80% of the people that's left have been local, and they're moving on to St. John's and other areas as well. So the recruiting locally is not necessarily working either.
All right, I know you got a new recruit that you just recruited locally that has an extensive background. And so we're looking forward to seeing him on the road as well.
Yes, sir, I am too.
Warden Robinson has retired and come on board with the Palatka Police Department. And so we are definitely looking forward to him as well in the coming months. And so also, Chief, you got anything else, Chief?
No, sir, that's all.
And so I know one of the things that we talked about, and I think the community is very interested in hearing this, we talked a little bit about curfew, and there was and we did a public service announcement along with other leaders of the community. Have you seen any change in behavior as a result of that public service announcement, since that public service announcement?
In fact, I have, Mayor. It's not I wouldn't say it's to the liking, 100% liking that I would prefer, but we have seen a reduction of group gathering. We have seen a reduction of individuals constantly getting together to either fight or party. We've seen a reduction since then. We've had one isolated incident, but outside of that, nothing.
Right. And so again, we are just continually encouraging positive behavior and social distancing, even as we began to have discussions about reopening society, for lack of any other term. We just want everyone to be conscious of the impacts of COVID. So, Chief, we definitely appreciate you and the efforts that were put in place for that. Chief Grimes, we know you got similar concerns as it relates to staffing. You got anything else for us?
Oh, yeah. This week, better than we had last week, last time we met. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, it's on my screen. It says we were muted. But the staff's healthy this week. We've got everybody back that was out and being tested. So we're in good shape there. We also were able to secure quite a bit of the PPE we had ordered last week is in. We're expecting another shipment of it, some surgical isolation masks here towards it's going to be either Friday. That Amazon shows it coming in on Sunday. I don't think we're going to get delivery that day. So I think we'll get it either on Friday or Monday. But other than that, yeah, we had the same concerns with Chief Shaw as far as, being able to fill positions. It's a we're in, but we'll work through it. We were full steam ahead working with a program with the school district until COVID hit, starting a public safety academy inside the schools, with Ms. Renee Huff and the others there at the school district to get that in place. Matter of fact, right before the kids got let out for spring break, we were at Palatka High School, and we actually saw about 150 students that had interest in the public safety world, not necessarily just firefighting. It could be nursing or police activities. So we're moving forward with that, hoping our recruit locally will help. We did have meetings scheduled in the other two high schools in the county. So, but yeah, much of the same, but just happy to report that having a good week. So
And your vacancies are at 3?
yes, sir. We have 3 vacancies right now. We've actually, Ms. Smith's working currently on contacting some applicants that we have in place to try to get a testing procedure put in place to where we can test a few at a time and keep them socially distanced, so we can go ahead and start working through that process as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Yule. Mr. Yule, we have anything from the airport?
Can you hear me?
We do hear you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Hey, nothing to report other than I'd like to congratulate the commission on making a good decision and appointing a licensed pilot to be our next city manager. And I'll look forward to seeing you out at the airport more often, Mr. Holmes, now that your workload is going to be reduced.
Well, you're not on
Hey,
video camera.
nothing else to report, sir.
All right, we appreciate it. Thanks, Mr. Yule. We can always count on you. Ms. Becker.
Well, I actually feel like the opposite, because I'm about to start working Mr. Holmes a lot more than I ever did before. So,
He's not laughing.
yeah, I'll probably get a wrist up of that. I have a couple of things officially on the agenda. I sent you all an email earlier today, just letting you know, kind of like a budget kickoff. We've been talking about it for a while. Me and the department heads have been working through budget, but it's officially time to rope in you all. Some of the budget calendar items have changed due to the COVID and us having to make adjustments with our schedules. But I feel as if after or as of next week, we're back on target with this calendar. I'm hoping so anyways. I meet with the department heads next week one-on-one. We're going to start discussing their request and see how they fit into the budget. Unfortunately right now we're going through some trying times. So just trying to figure out where we're going to end this year and then looking into next year. Being uber conservative is the goal. However, we all have concerns for our departments, and I've heard them, recruiting is a lot of them, filling vacancies, that sort of thing. And so I want to make sure that we're all on the same page with that. I've asked that they look at their budgets as they exist and see if they can reallocate some of the funds that they already have and be creative. We'll see how that goes. But one thing I did want to speak to is the Work, Play, Live initiative that we started last fiscal year. I was supposed to have a mid-year update for you all, and I have reached out to the department heads. I have updates. However, a lot of them have been conservative in trying to make sure that, that was not extra budget, but kind of just a side thing that we put in there. And so some of them have held off on their projects. So you will probably be seeing a lot of those circle into next fiscal year. And I'll give you a better update or a summary update for each of those departments as we move forward with those projects. like I said, the budget calendar is in your inbox. So if you need or you have any questions, we'll be coming to you one-on-one with a budget summary as we always do. And I've also asked for your initiatives for the budget and your inputs. They matter. I need them back by the 15th of May, if you would, so that I can make sure that they are in there. If you have any questions, you want to call me, email me, please do. Want to get involved. The second is a 6-month report, or if you have any questions before I move on.
Go ahead.
Okay. The next report is a 6-month report, your budget and brief outlook. There are some revenues and expenditures that aren't posted on this report, so it may there may be a few questions that you have. Let's see. The one thing that you need to know is that the expenses on this report do not reflect the encumbrances that have been made. So basically, those are promised monies that we expect to spend by the end of the fiscal year. This is truly what has left the bank at this point. We're operating, fairly well right now. We've really been watching things. Those things that are under close watch are, overtime due to vacancies. We've discussed that. Donations and sponsorships, unbudgeted projects and requests. Unless there's monies that we think we can reallocate elsewhere, we're really trying to stay away from some of those. Maintenance lines and your general operational budgets. Let's see, you'll see that in airport, there's an expense overage. It's due to grant related expenses. Hopefully, due to grant timing and reimbursements, those will all be reconciled by the end of the fiscal year. Utility funds, sanitation, those look as if they're over expensed. However, though their respective revenues are not posted in this report. So I'm confident that it'll correct itself once we see those revenues come, or once we see them posted. Other than that, golf course is currently on track. TIF fund, have no concerns. And Better Place fund, there's an overage and expense, but it's due to a revenue posting or delay in revenue posting. That is all I have.
We've also got some additional resources based on the fact that we didn't move forward with the new administrative buildings. Correct.
Correct. There's in each of the funds, there's some allocations there that we will be able to kind of hold on to or reallocate if needed.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it for me, sir.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the budget summary report given by Ms. Becker?
So move.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor by Vice Mayor Brown. There's a second by Commissioner McCaskill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next up, Mr. Griffith.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. First, City Manager Holmes, glad to have you on the team. Looking forward to these positive changes we're going to continue to put in place. We did have 3 bids come in the past 2 days, so projects are still moving forward. Those will be before you next month for your review and approval. They're currently being reviewed by staff and the engineers that are under contract. Mr. Holmes did ask me to kind of touch on the status of our staffing and operations in light of the ongoing COVID-19 situation. We are seeing some heightened level of anxiety in our staff. Most of that as a result of misinformation or lack of information as it relates to employees being out for unrelated illnesses or being tested for an abundance of caution. And I quote the health department when I state an abundance of caution. To date, we have not had any employees test positive for COVID-19. We have had some employees stay home and away from work, again, out of caution. We do have 2 employees that are currently being tested, and we're awaiting those results in the next few days. Other than that, we are anticipating the potential to have to modify some of our operations if we do see a serious reduction in staffing levels. I won't go into the details because I don't want to spread any misinformation to the public about what we are or will not be doing as of right now. We will continue to conduct ourselves in the way we have in the past, and service levels will maintain what they have been. But we do have plans in place, I want to assure you. Just on a final note, I know Don spoke about Robert Smith. That's a tough one for us. And I just want to kind of put that out to the commission and his family that his loss is felt. With that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, our hearts go out to Robert. I've known Robert my entire life, and it's a tough one for us all. Nothing that we by no means saw coming, and you know, it's a tough time right now. And so I've had an opportunity to talk to his family, and we just continue to keep them in prayer. And we're going to ask that everybody in this city keep them in prayer, because we lost a good one. You know, very committed guy to this city, and a hard worker, and you know, a great friend. And so again, we just send our prayers out for him and his family. Mr. Cutright, are you on the phone?
Yes, I'm here, Mayor. I'm here, Mayor.
You want to give us an update on cultural resources, what you guys are doing logistically?
Well, basically right now we're still on the freeze because of all this going on with the pandemic. But you know, like I said, Winston Fletcher is doing a wonderful job with Chief Graham, is gathering PPEs and all the other supplies that we need. Other than that, we're just standing fast to tell us green light to get these kids back on the fields and get the use of the recreation center with the partnership that we was trying to do with Mr. Hesterman and the school board to get them to use the computers in the building to help with homework and outreach programs. Other than that, Don, Mr. Holmes, welcome aboard. Maybe I can get that $250 that you said you was going to donate to the program now, since you're working with us full time. Hopefully it'll come good. And other than that, I wish that, you know, I'm just here to help and do what we can on our side of the house. If nobody know, me and Mr. Mark Hayes, we decided to keep him in our building and use the office that he's in. So Jonathan, if you get a chance, can you send me a couple of guys to kind of move one shelf from the back into that office he's in?
Okay. One of the other things that we have is I've seen some creative stuff that's done over, particularly places like City of Tampa. They're doing a lot of interesting things, and a lot of folks have seen the DJ Nice watch parties and DJ parties that were on there. One of the ideas that I shared with Chief Shaw was we want to try to do a community block party, get some local DJs involved, and get folks to have fun while inside. And we can kind of share videos of people enjoying the music of all genres, and just have a day where we get this local community gathered together to push forward. And we want you to help us with that as well, so that we can do something and try to see if we can flood the social media outlets with some fun from Putnam, and just get our folks to stay inside and move forward.
Well, Mayor, I'm glad you brought that up. I need y'all help. On our Facebook page, Palatka Recreation and Culture Arts Facebook page, we do some things, but we never get input back from y'all. We did a skit last week about tic-tac-toe with a twist. I made myself look real stupid in the Facebook, but I uploaded a little game. We need you and the mayor and the commissioners and also the director heads to do a little skit at home and upload it so people can see that the human side of the city employees. Also, starting tomorrow, we're going to do a fitness challenge where you get a t-shirt saying that you're the stay-at-home champion. We're going to roll dice, and the dice will say what exercise you got to do, and then also to give you amount of reps or minutes that you got to do it. Please get involved.
Mayor,
Dice with no gap.
Mayor, if I could, I just want to add that I'm on light duty right now. I'm
All
on
right.
live right now for participation, so I'm gonna bow out.
Well,
Hey,
Chief Shaw, you okay? Because you have participated in my program, so you have a good out on this one. The rest of them doesn't. Commissioner Barnes, this is your time to step up and be a part on the program. You have always told me if I have something, you were gonna support it. Now I need you to step up and put a video for me now.
This is that drill sergeant.
I make no apologies. I make about 99% of everything I commit to. Hey,
Drill sergeant coming up.
I think I shared with you the last time. You invited me to something that there was a real.
Yes, you're right.
So I really do support as much as I can.
No, I agree. I'm just messing with you, Commissioner Barnes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Cutright. Vice Mayor Brown said she'd take on the physical challenge thing. So, next up is going to be Ms. Robinson. So we appreciate you, Mr. Cutright.
Mr. Cutright, if I get down, you'll have to help me up.
Welcome, Mr. Holmes. First, I'd like to say, but piggybacking off of Jonathan just a little bit, email was sent out to the entire staff as it pertains to this pandemic. It is very important that all of our staff updates their information as it pertains to phone numbers, addresses, beneficiaries, contact information, because there's some of us that haven't updated in 10 years. So it is, the forms have been emailed to every employee. The department heads have them as well. It is important that the commission does the same thing. So if you guys would take the time to update your information, that would be great. We just want to make sure that we have accurate record reporting with everything and everyone trying to get their lives in order right now.
Okay. Mr. Holmes, I think you're last.
Well, first, again, thank you for the trust and confidence that you placed in me and letting me join the team in a different capacity. I appreciate that, and I want to try to justify that. You have reason to be proud of your staff. From what I've seen to this point, you, as the mayor indicated, we've been dealing with some unusual circumstances. Almost every one of your department heads is having to juggle schedules, juggle staff, trying to fill holes. We do have multiple people out on quarantine in a couple of different departments, and I'm not going to mention which department right now, but we do have a number of people who are on quarantine at this particular time as a result of contact or suspicions or contact with a known COVID person or contact with one suspected to be. And your staff is making adjustments to still keep your level of services good and high. And as you know, you mentioned Mr. Smith, who passed away last Friday. That was an additional blow to the other blows that have been suffered, and it's been very rewarding to me to see people step up and serve roles that they weren't necessarily billeted in. For instance, Mr. Chandler driving a garbage truck or sanitation truck, head of that department. Mr. Griffith's been serving yeoman's duty in a number of different areas, trying to help me with a couple of different things. And the community stepped up too. You may or may not know that when we quarantine somebody, sometimes it's necessary, or when somebody is quarantined, sometimes it's necessary to find some place for them to stay so they don't have to go home to their loved ones and risk spreading what they may have to them. And we've had a couple of people in the community, I won't mention names because I'm not sure they want their names mentioned, offer houses to us. We have 3 houses right now that have been offered to us free of charge, other than us paying utility bills while we're using the houses, and then an apartment also. So that will save the city money and allow us to give our employees some peace of mind that they're not going home and quarantining with their own family and perhaps children and risking giving them the disease we're trying to avoid spreading among our own other employees. With the exception of those things, we're working on a couple of other issues that needed to be addressed. Ms. Robinson and I are reaching out and have reached out in a couple of different directions to solve a problem that needs to be solved, and I think we're making some progress in that respect. So, and also, by the way, we put in a couple of policies trying to minimize traffic at City Hall. not just public traffic, but our own employees coming in and out of City Hall so that we can try to keep our staff as safe as possible. As you all know, we're operating on relatively short staff or with relatively short staff. And when we lose someone because of a need to quarantine or to isolate, it makes things extra difficult. So we're doing everything we can to try to observe social distancing and also minimize traffic at City Hall to those that just have to come down to City Hall in person. If they can call or in some other way communicate with our people at City Hall, we're trying to accomplish that. And with the exception of that, I look forward to hitting the ground tomorrow and trying to help us move forward as quickly as possible.
Me too. Congratulations. Commissioner Boyle.
All right, well, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, deepest sympathy to the family, co-workers, and friends of our beloved Robert Smith. We just like to make sure that we keep them lifted up in prayers, everybody in the community. So, and again, we did have a very, very productive meeting today. I'm very proud of that and look forward to continuing business. Thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner McCaskill.
I want to say again, welcome aboard, Mr. Holmes. As I said before, I have full confidence that you will do well and serve the city well. I would like to say that I have reached out to the family of Robert Smith, you know, who's near and dear to my heart. And I also want to let the guys in the department know that we're at the point of touch with him every day, that they are also in my prayers as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Well, they call me city mama and city grandma, and that's. We take care of each other. We'll all be better off. I wanted to tell Mr. Don Holmes, I know he used to write all those briefs, and they get to be pretty thick when he sends us information. He can shorten them a little bit because he's gonna have a lot more to do this time. I just want to remind you, Don. Look, you don't need the packet. We need the smaller packet, and we're glad to have you aboard. I'll miss kicking you under the table, but I know there'll be things that we'll be talking about. I'm looking forward to you working with all of us and all of us working with you so that we have the best community we can have.
Commissioner Campbell.
My thoughts and prayers are with the Smith family as well during this difficult time. Tragic loss to our city, a dedicated staff member, of course. Again, my thoughts and prayers are with them at this time. Attorney Holmes, we welcome you with open arms and we look forward to continuing this race. You've already hit the ground and just looking forward to moving forward. I also want to thank our staff, our department heads and staff that have filled the vacancies and filled the void where they needed to continue at this time to make sure that our city continue to move forward. It is not taken lightly. We appreciate you for your willingness to serve, even from a distance, virtually, or throughout the community. We are grateful for you. Also, to go back to Mr. Cutright, I will make sure that I take an active part. I have been doing TikTok videos, so I may issue a TikTok challenge to our community to get some things going and actively on that page. And so I will vow to do that.
Thank you, Commissioner Campbell. I appreciate that. Now if we can get the mayor to put the video up, we'll be good.
He'll be the first one to do a TikTok.
No TikTok.
Or he can step.
You missed it. Moving forward, we are, and I want the community to really, this is a very serious note for us. 30 days ago, Putnam County had 2 cases of COVID. That was on March 23rd. Today, we have 75 cases based on the last alert. Last week, the numbers, there was an 89% increase in the number of COVID cases in the community. Some of that's due to increased testing, but a lot of it's due to the fact that we aren't taking seriously social distancing. When we look around this country and I listened to the comments from the mayor from Las Vegas, and I will refrain from saying anything about her comments here. And we just pray for our leadership around this country, consciously believing that we are not putting people in a position where they are guinea pigs for experiments where we are taking the lowest common denominators in all of our community. We've seen how COVID has affected the African-American community nationally in ways astronomically different than what the population shows. The number of deaths that are being attributed to people who are either from low socioeconomic status or based upon ethnicity, and also based upon geographical region, we're finding ourselves in a position where we have to be conscious of all those things that are out there. And there's a rush around this country. You see it in Georgia, you see it all over, where governors and everyone, they're rushing to bring us back into society in the same way that we were prior to COVID coming about. And the reality of all of it is that we still don't even know the answers as to how long the virus lasts, how it goes away. I just saw a young lady yesterday who tested positive 3 times after being isolated for 14 days. 7 days later, she tested positive again. She's 25 days in and she's on her 3rd positive test with COVID. And people are walking around as if nothing's going on. We are seeing people die every day. In New York, they're putting people in freezers. They're doing the same thing in Louisiana. We've got folks around here who are in and out of isolation. They're on ventilators. And we have to make sure consciously that in this community that we do everything necessary to protect our citizens. You know, we've got young folks who are still exhibiting bad behavior. Luckily, it's starting to change a little bit, but every day we got to remind folks that you are not exempt. There are 6 and 7-year-olds in Putnam County who've tested positive for COVID. There are 82-year-olds who tested positive. I don't want to see some young teenager who's living with their grandmother, who's being irresponsible, go back and put Granny in a position where she's on a ventilator. We need to all be conscious about what's going on. Other communities have put forth resolutions where they are actually requiring citizens to go out in public and wear masks. And one of the things that we've discussed, I've discussed it with Chief, I've discussed it with Mr. Holmes, and also with our logistics team, and also with Chief Shaw. We've discussed the possibility of instituting ordinances which allow folks to be able to wear some type of mask, whether it's a surgical mask or some cloth covering when they go out in public to protect others and to protect themselves. The city of Miramar did it with Mayor Messam, and we have to consider it here in the city of Palatka as we move forward, because we find ourselves at the bottom of the list in the state of Florida as it relates to health. Yeah, we've made some advances, but we're still near the bottom. And that some of it deals with economic, but some of it deals with poverty, and some of it deals with what's going on in the realities in our community. And we can ill afford to have our citizens put in danger because we've not put certain mechanisms in place. And I want us all to be conscious about it. Right now, I encourage every citizen, if you're out in public and you're around other people, wear a mask. Put something over your face. Wear gloves if you can. But, you know, we've got to be serious about this. We are starting to implement non-essential activity back into society as the starting block. And it's almost as if the mindset is, let's go ahead and send some folks to the barbershop and the hair salon and the nail salon and see if they survive in a couple of weeks, and then we'll implement the rest of society. That's not what this America is built on. We've got to make sure that we do everything consciously to protect our citizens. There are projections that show that there will be another hit of COVID in the fall. I want to make sure that Putnam County is at the forefront of flattening the curve. And the only way we can do that is for us not to be hasty in how we return, and to make sure that we continually take precautions until there's an antidote or there's something that's put in place, a vaccine that allows us to know that our citizens are safe. And so I encourage all our citizens, don't be hasty. Don't be fooled by what's going on, and don't be in such a hurry to get out and get back out here running around. that you forget to protect yourself, because this is real and people are dying. And I want all of us to be conscious about it. Every day we're hearing about a new case. There's 8 new cases today here in Putnam. So when you go from 2 to 75 in 30 days in a small community, there has to be some level of consciousness. And I want us all to make sure that we protect ourselves, we protect our family members, and we protect our fellow citizens. And so protect yourself wherever you can. Tomorrow, Mr. Holmes and I will be at the radio station giving out public service announcement. Chief and I will continually be putting public service announcements out on a regular basis with other leaders throughout the community. And we just want you guys to all be conscious about where we are. And I want this commission to really consider strengthening our efforts to make sure, whether it's providing surgical masks to as many citizens as we can to kind of get the movement started. But I want us to consider what we can do as a commission as we begin to transition over these next few weeks back into society, into our activities in so many ways. But I want us to make sure we do all that we can do to at least give our citizens a head start as they move forward. And so that's my comments for today. Again, we send all our prayers and condolences to the family of Robert Smith, and also to the Williams family over in San Mateo. We lost a mother and 2 children. We've got a father who's a friend to this community, and there's a strong community there. And we send our prayers out because that's a tragic loss. 3 lives lost in one accident, 4 lives lost in one accident. And we send our prayers to everyone who's associated and everywhere in this community, because our community is hurting as a whole. We have a lot of children who are hurting as a result of the loss of these young people, and our employees are hurting because we've lost Robert. And so again, just remain safe, remain mindful, and remain strong, Putnam strong. And so that's my message for today. And I'm glad that we're moving this community forward, that we're on track, and let's just keep going. And that's my message for you today. Let's just stay Putnam strong. We're now adjourned.